Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about how to convince your pastor when they just won't listen.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, and I'm joined, as always, by the boss man. It's Brady Shearer. Today, we're talking about how to convince your pastor when they just won't listen to you.
How to convince your pastor. Now, what I'm about to share with you, for what it's worth, came from directly a lead pastor, senior pastor friend of ours.
So this is not just your opinion.
This is not just a young, reckless, cocky millennial's opinion on how to persuade an older person and dupe them into doing your bidding.
Right.
We could do an episode on that, but we're not going to. So, the first thing to recognize and to understand is that when you're trying to convince your pastor of something, you are not going to accomplish all of your hopes and dreams for ministry, ideally, or perhaps creative because you're listening to Pro Church Daily, in one conversation.
No.
It's just not going to happen. So the first thing that you need to do to succeed in this task is to likely lower the bar, lower your expectations just a little bit. This is going to be a long process, and we're going to walk you through the whole process in this episode of Pro Church Daily. But don't think that you can go in, give some type of epic cinematic speech, and then accomplish everything that you want, get a giant budget, walk out, like a boss.
Right.
And dab on everybody. It's just not going to happen, okay? So the second thing that you need to recognize is that when it comes to whatever project that you're trying to convince your pastor of to agree to, or whatever piece of gear that you want your pastor, senior leadership to sign off on and give you the budget for, nobody cares as much as you do. Right? So, for instance, if you are in the market for a brand new cinema camera, and you know that the dynamic range on this camera is unlike any camera your church has ever owned, and it's 4K resolution, and the autofocus is otherworldly. The battery life, pristine.
Yep.
The picture quality, amazing. Look, no one cares.
Martha does not care.
The senior leadership could not give any rips about this camera.
No.
0 rips given.
Yes.
Only you care to the degree that you do. So again, another expectation that you need to properly set before you go into these negotiations and these conversations. First, recognize that it's not going to happen in one conversation. Second, recognize that nobody cares as much as you do.
Yeah.
From there, once you have your expectations properly set, now we can go into actually having a dialogue and working towards accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish.
And before we move on, I need to say this. You don't have to care less about what you care about. You don't have to recognize nobody cares about this as much as I do, so maybe I shouldn't care about it as much.
True.
No, you can care about it as much as you need to. Just recognize that not everyone shares the same passion as you. Going into these conversations, as long as you maintain that perspective, you'll stay a step ahead.
It all comes down to understanding how you are being perceived.
Yeah.
Right? So like Alex just said, doesn't mean that you need to care less. You could be caring the perfect amount.
Yeah.
You probably don't care as much about the kids ministry if you are not in the kids ministry.
Right.
But we need the kids ministers to care way more.
Yeah.
They need to care as much as they
Yeah.
do. You don't need to care less, but you need to understand how you are being perceived.
Right.
And often especially when it's a younger person, comes in and asks a big ask for money for gear or, responsibility for a big project or ministry, they are perceived as perhaps overstepping their, boundaries, or they don't really care about the church. They just want this fancy new camera. They just want a nice subscription to Photoshop. They don't actually care about the vision and mission of this church. And so when it comes to the dialogue and the first conversation you want to have, what you need to do is go in and link your project and or purchase request to the mission and vision of the church. You need to demonstrate to the senior leadership that not only do you understand what the church is trying to accomplish on a whole, but also that the request that you are making ties directly into that grand mission and vision. Because truthfully, everything that we do as a church should always link back to that.
Right.
So you need to first demonstrate that you have an understanding of that, and that not only does your project link into it, but it's actually going to help move forward the mission and vision.
Yeah.
Here is an exact script that you can use to send to your pastor via email or memorize it and actually say to your pastor, your senior leadership in person. Here goes. Here's the script.
Okay.
You can write this down, copy it, paste it, memorize it.
Okay, pitch it to me.
Okay. Hey, Alex, I've been thinking a lot about our church and about your vision, and I was wondering if we could work together on a project to bring that vision to life through a very expensive camera.
That's great.
Insert the thing that you need at the at the very, very end.
Yeah.
And if you are making, here's another pro tip, if you're making a purchase request, don't use that as the ask. use that purchase request to create a project that's going to push the vision forward. Because on its own, the cinema camera is not going to do anything aside from making you feel like a boss. And then again, you're just dabbing on everybody at that point. So again, I'll read it one more time. Hey, Alex, I've been thinking a lot about our church and your vision. And I was wondering if we could work together on a project to bring that vision to life through insert here.
I love it.
What this script does is it makes Alex feel validated as the senior leader. I'm not coming in as a youngster just trying to get mine. I'm trying to come alongside him and help him accomplish the vision that he has for the church. I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to aid him in ways that maybe he isn't able to. Hopefully in ways that he isn't able to. That's why you're there.
Yeah, that's so good.
So that's the script to use. From there, what you want to do is you want to accomplish your first project with zero investment on the part of your senior leadership. And when I say zero investment, I mean zero time investment, zero money investment, and zero volunteer investment. This is where you go above and beyond what you normally do. Beg for a camera, borrow from somebody else, accomplish the first project once he or she, your senior leadership, has agreed to it without any investment on their part. Prove to them that if they make a permanent investment in something like this, it's going to be well worth it, and do that through a trial that does not require any investment on their part. We see this all the time in commerce. You sign up for a SaaS product, meaning a software product, and you get a 14-day free trial.
Exactly.
If you are going to make a permanent investment with your money in this product, the product needs to first prove to you that it's worth that investment.
Yeah, that's really good.
Similarly, you want to do something like that. This is where free work comes into play. There's a reason we give away so much free content. It's doing the same thing. This free content builds trust and reciprocity with you. When we launch a product, you're much more likely to purchase it because the relationship exists and the trust and belief in us and our ability to help you exists already as well. That's what you're trying to accomplish here. Now, assuming you go through that process, you do the free work, you beg and borrow the camera from a buddy, and you prove that your request is not only tied to the mission and vision, is not only going to push the mission and vision of the church forward, it's not only going to be successful, and that's here where you take your final step. This is where you make the big ask. This is where you come in and you say, okay, here's how much it's going to cost you. In time, or in money, or in volunteer resources. And here's where the final step of this process comes in. You want to frame this request in such a way where there are multiple different options. Again, to go back to software, if you've ever signed up for a piece of software, you've probably seen that there are multiple different pricing plans. And sometimes one of these pricing plans will have a little badge on it that says most popular or most value. What you're doing here is you're anchoring what you want with the price of something else. So what you want to do is figure out how much your camera costs. So let's say the camera and the gear that you want, hypothetically, it could be anything here. The camera that you want is $5,000. You want to present your senior leadership with three options. There's going to be a lower priced option that you will say, here's why this won't work. And then explain all the reasons why. You know, if we buy this, it'll be some upfront affordability, but long term, we'll just have to spend more. Then the thing that you actually want, you put in the middle section. It's the $5,000 camera kit. You're like, this is a great option. And then you put one that's even more expensive. Maybe it's $7,500. Maybe it's $10,000. And that's where you go and say, look, there's this one that's better, but I think that we can get by with this cheaper one. And this isn't disingenuous.
No.
This isn't lacking in integrity. But what it does do is prove to your senior leadership that, look, we could be spending more, but I am still finding a way to save money.
Look, I work in a small local church, and so I have a lot to say about this subject. We have to keep these episodes to 10 minutes or less.
And I've talked way too long.
I know, so I can't say too much. But for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you could see that I was just nodding my head very emphatically during that, everything you said, because I wholeheartedly agree with everything we said here and believe in this whole process, because I know what it's like to walk into a church and see everything that you want to change. You know, you have this grand vision of what the stage could look like if only you did this and had these lights, and what your connect room could look like if you painted it this way and had these live edge tables and this coffee maker and all this stuff. I know what that's like, and I also know what it's like to make the mistake to go and say, okay, I want to do this, and this, and this. Where can I start? And, you know, ready and willing to do the work. So I wasn't in error there, but it's like we have to take a step back and realize, okay, I have a vision. The church has a vision. Let's do these things one step at a time. Let's take the proper steps in this process, because it is a process. It's a delicate process, especially in church. You know, on our websites, most of us in our churches have welcome home. And the people who come to our churches actually feel at home. And so when we start changing things this week and next week, we got something different and this and that, people feel like it's almost as if you walked into their house and changed the furniture around and took the pictures off the wall and hung your own. That's how people feel. feel. So I learned the hard way. There's a process here. And so let's all take a step back. Not care any less, care just as much as we do, but do these things the right way. And I wholeheartedly believe that if we do things this way, you'll have much more of an open door with your senior leadership. They'll be able to listen to you, validate who you are, what your ministry is, as you validate their wisdom, their vision, and we can all work together.
Great additions. That'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Daily. Before we go, we're running a bunch of contests, giving away a ton of stuff on my personal Instagram for the month of February, at Brady Shearer on Instagram. If you want to be a part of those giveaways, if you want to be eligible, you need to be following me, connected on Instagram. Follow me at Brady Shearer, and you can get in touch with all of those giveaways. Thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another video.
And if you like this video, it would mean the world to us if you give it a thumbs up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.